at Northwood.
Mm-hmm.
But has to go to let's say does have to go to St. Agnes.
Right.
It would still be shorter, a little shorter.
A little bit,
like
yes.
Maybe 5 minutes
Yes,
shorter.
about 5 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
That's right.
Traditionally, Wilmington has always picked up Northwood
Right, because it's on the way.
for the, Northwood's not on the way from Wilmington to this school.
I'm sorry, it's close, yeah. Okay.
So the drop off, but prior to having to go to St. Agnes first, when St. Agnes was gone to second.
Right.
So that's just the way, it's always that the Wilmington bus came in and turned. And then I don't know if the high school bus also takes River Road. Because that's another, the Wilmington bus would then pick up everybody on, the other Wilmington bus would pick up everybody on River Road. So, and all the bus run from Wilmington is too long for the students, K through 12. It's too long to be on the bus. And if there's any way for the students who started in Wilmington not to have to take a left or right through Lake Placid, when there are buses that have a 20.
One of the big questions that will come up this year as well as every year is, will there be any Wilmington students who need to go to St. Agnes first? And that's where one of the questions. So that without that, then that is not a necessary stop for that bus. But it would be a necessary stop if there's a student on the Wilmington run that goes to St. Agnes.
And I do agree with Patty that I think we should, if it's possible, even if it makes the Lake Placid runs a little less efficient,
Mm-hmm.
if we can shorten that Wilmington trip,
Mm-hmm.
I can still remember, in Lake Placid, living in Lake Placid, the hassle getting out in the morning and getting the kids where they needed to be on time and getting to work on time yourself. I still remember that, and it would only be compounded living the distance away in Wilmington if you have to get the kids ready an hour before, more than an hour before school starts. Anything that we could do to make that, shorten that run, even if it adds 10 minutes, 15 minutes to the Lake Placid run, I think it would, Patty said, make it more equitable.
And I don't know what the high school pickup time is, because we haven't, where the Santa's workshop stop, and so we were the first.
Yeah.
And we haven't utilized the bus because it was about 6:10 a.m. 6:15 is when they were supposed to be out at the end of the driveway, which just isn't an option. So I don't know if it's still that. So the 6:55 for the elementary, the high school, it's early.
Yeah, high school is earlier, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right, and the first stop at Wilmington for the elementary is about 6:55.
Do you have what it is for the high school?
I don't have that here now.
The question was from the elementary school teacher, but or the parent, but I just.
So one of the things about bus schedules is that they change every year, and so we're aware of this and looking at it for this year and see what the needs are, and then we'll make any adjustments that we can.
Okay.
Thank you for giving me the information.
And is that going to be communicated with Mrs. Berner, who was the parent that brought the concern? Or,
I think once we know what the story is,
Okay.
because again, a lot of things rely on who their kids are and where their pickups are and what the needs are. So.
And since she came to a meeting, maybe it would be, for me to call her and just say, we haven't forgotten, that we are looking into it, and we have this report. We have a better idea of what can happen, and that the goal is to try to shorten that Wilmington bus run. Do you think?
Yeah, I get that. Shouldn't get that. But.
Anything else on the Wilmington discussion, Wilmington bus discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second one is a point that maybe wasn't raised quite so clearly, but, you know, I want to make sure that you know, has the board's attention, which is the busing question surrounding the two sports in which we send students over to Saranac Lake, and that's lacrosse and now football. And football's just getting started. Yesterday was the first day, so we don't have a lot of experience with it, but we do have experience with lacrosse. So I just tried to provide you with my notes and background to this issue and some of the challenges. And there are challenges to doing anything differently than what we're doing now. I wanted you to know that, but that also doesn't mean that it's not on my radar. It might be on the board's radar as well. So, you know, we do have students on 3 lacrosse teams in Saranac Lake. We have, last year it was 7 modified boys, 7 varsity boys, and 6 varsity girls. They all practice there. The coaches are all there. They wear Saranac Lake uniforms. It was an addition, just like the football addition, and gave kids an additional option. But busing was never a part of that option. Transportation was never a part of that. And that's not unusual. Matter of fact, Saranac Lake sends students here for some of our teams, and they also are required to get their own transportation. So, you know, it's a fairly common arrangement. But certainly the point's been brought up a lot with the lacrosse situation because of the number of students who play, right? So we have, what numbers there is about 20, and we've had somewhere in the mid-teens to mid-20s playing, and they all rely on carpools, and sometimes it's difficult for families who can provide that kind of transportation. There are also likely students who are not playing lacrosse because their families cannot provide that kind of transportation.
Do kids drive themselves?
There are some times when kids are given that permission, but not on a regular basis. However, when I started looking into what would it take, you know, we're talking about 1 bus ride to Saranac Lake in the 3 o'clock and 1 at 6 o'clock. The answer was it's a little bit more complicated than that. That's because of the nature of lacrosse, spring sports, spring weather, etc. So there were lots of complications, including different start times, different locations, and different levels of supervision. We have last year 7 modified lacrosse players, and some of the girls on the varsity team were actually middle school students. And yet, when they arrive at the field, if they arrive before practice starts, sometimes that practice is not supervised. The coach isn't there yet, right? So there's no supervision for those. So there are difficulties in thinking about how we would transport kids if we were to drop them off, say, on a field, maybe not even a field that's on the grounds of the schools there, without anybody there, and drop off our middle school students there. Even if we could get those a bus there, more than 1 bus there on a regular basis. So, you know, when we took a look at this, you know, the question was, what would it take to do it really well, right? And the answer is it would probably take a bus and a driver and possibly an additional supervisor, somebody who would supervise kids, not just on the bus, but at the fields when they're not being supervised themselves. And that would, of course, be additional time, additional resources, including the use of a bus. And when we started talking about what kind of bus availability do we have in the spring at that time of day, it's actually probably the toughest time of day, the toughest time of year, because you know, not only do we have 5 buses that are leaving the elementary school at 3 o'clock, about the time that this kind of bus would have to leave. We also have late bus to Dillon High School, but we also have the sports buses here because we have to transport our own athletes on our own teams by bus to our fields. We're talking softball, we're talking baseball, track, and others. And of course, because it's spring and we don't know where we're going to be, whether we're going to be at the height of winter in spring, whether we're going to be at the start of summer in spring, we don't quite know how that's going to work out. So there are a lot of challenges to doing this. When I started looking into it, I thought, well, maybe it'll be just a simple fix. It's not a simple fix. It's a much more complicated fix. Different schools do respond somewhat differently. So for example, and I use this as an example in my notes, Keene is on Keene sends girls to our softball team, and this is not 10 miles, it's more, this is, up the mountain, right? They send a bus and a bus driver who just drives them, waits, and drives them back. So you'll always see the Keene bus here on a spring day waiting for their practice to be done. That's how it works for them. It would probably need to work something like that for us, except that we have multiple teams, and that makes it just that much more complicated. So I don't come to you with answers, here's what we should do, and let's do it. I come here just to raise these questions. They're kind of questions that have been lingering with me, and I want to put them out there. They're questions that probably could be resolved with additional resources if we chose to go that route. But there's a lot to it, a lot more to it than I'm ready to recommend tonight. So that's why it's part of the report, not part of something else.
I was wondering, maybe the timing wouldn't work, but Keene sends a bus with their softball players, so Keene comes up, we've got a deal where Keene brings the bus up, drops their softball players off, picks up our kids, takes them over to Saranac Lake, and then Saranac Lake is coming over to pick up some kids. Could they pick up our kids? When they come to pick up kids at the end, could they pick up our kids and bring them back? Is there a way that we can, it may not work, it's confusing, but
yeah,
just
theoretically, that does sound like that it could help.
Yeah.
In practice, just trying to manage the logistics of the spring sports schedule makes it a little bit more complicated than that. And also Saranac Lake doesn't do much busing here.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's one of those things where you talk about making it available, this available to all kids.
Yeah.
This is one where that opportunity gap could really be broadened because some kids aren't going to have that service.
And the sport of lacrosse is one type of sport that has attracted historically certain kinds of kids and families. Football perhaps is a little bit different, and I'm a little bit worried that we open the door to football and that the kids that want to participate really won't be able to because of the absence of transportation. Now I don't know that yet because it just started, we'll see how many of our kids who said they wanted to participate have actually been able to participate. But I agree with you that there is a level of access that not everybody has when it comes to this type of transportation problem.
Will those kids share that they're having transportation difficulties with Donna?
That's what I'm thinking, and that's why I don't come to you today knowing the answer. We're going to give it a little time and see how it works out.
Well, what was the bus? I'm looking at Karen because there was a bus for lacrosse what was that one?
There was a Saranac Lake student who came to school here, and they would bring a bus over to pick him up at the end of the day.
Okay.
And then the kids would get on the bus when the timing of the practice
Right. I
worked out,
remember
and they would ride the bus over.
We had to just say it was okay that our kid was at the field unattended for 45 minutes or whatever it was. Okay, there was, but that was a unique situation in that Saranac Lake, that wasn't a regular.
No.
It wasn't like the Rosie's bus coming back and then going back over. Okay, thanks. I just remembered it.
All right, so those are my bus.
So that
Issues
one's both are to be continued.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Last piece of my superintendent's report is just we're gearing up for the year. I just wanted to make sure that you know that things are happening, and here's what they are. So today one of those things is today we had our new employee orientation today. So everybody who has been hired or who's about to be hired is attended this orientation, and that's from about 8 o'clock to about 1 o'clock or 1:30. A little bit of breakfast, a little bit of lunch. In between, a lot of discussions, preparations, and working way through, how, everything from, paperwork for being employed here to overviews on issues like harassment issues to payroll and health insurance and everything in between, everything that people are wondering about when they come to work here. But mostly it's really a nice bonding time, a chance for our new employees to get to know some of us and to get to know each other and to start to feel like they are members of the team, members of the family, and start thinking about, if they're not already, thinking about a few weeks from now when our kids arrive. So it was a very nice day with a lot of good people. That was today. This week, varsity and JV practices began, so that was starting yesterday. Modified starts a week from yesterday, or Monday the 21st. This week is also the last week for summer school. So summer school is finishing up. Today was the last day of class at the middle and high school. They have Regents exams tomorrow and Thursday. At the elementary school, things continue on through the end of the week, and Friday is the last day for students there. Later on in August, we have a parent athletic meeting. That's going to be Wednesday, August 23rd. And then the following week, Thursday, August 31st, is the locker day at the middle and high school. And that's the day when students can come with their families, get their schedules, their locker combinations, spend some time walking around, getting themselves prepared for the new school year. It's a good day too. Tuesday, then September 5th, that's the Tuesday after Labor Day, is when the teachers and staff return to school. And you are also all invited to breakfast if you would like to attend, 7:30 in the morning on Tuesday, September 5th. And then we follow that with some presentations, and then teachers go off to individual and department preparation and faculty meetings and those kinds of things. That's Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday is the first day for students. But before that, at the elementary school on Wednesday, so that's Monday is Labor Day, Tuesday is the first day back for teachers and staff, Wednesday is the second day back for teachers and staff, and then during that day, we'll host the kindergarten open house, and that's at noon to 1 at the elementary school. And then we'll have new student tours in the early afternoon. I believe that's about 4:30, and then 5 o'clock is open house at the elementary school on that Wednesday for grades 1 through 5, and then the picnic, barbecue picnic, the cookout picnic is 6 o'clock on Wednesday. So also a really nice day for them. And then of course that's followed on Thursday by the first day of school. So we are getting ready, and we're gearing up, and we're getting excited. So ready to go. Getting ready to go. And that's everything I have. Any questions or comments?
I can't believe it's time.
I know, it moves along quickly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have information for the board. Actually, I'm going to put you on call again, Roger. The check, do you want to maybe explain that do people have questions about?
Oh, yes, the check, right.
It seemed pretty clear.
Yeah. So we have been talking about the policy that I think I said in my notes. We are not following 100%, and we need to start doing that. And this provides us with an example of the kind of gifts we receive. So this was an annual check. This one's actually covering 2 years of scholarships. And we do receive checks like this fairly frequently from donors of one sort of or another. Sometimes you can look at the amount of the check, or you can look at what the check is being donated for. This one's being donated for scholarships, the amount of about $1,000. So we put this in information with the idea being that the $1,000 doesn't necessarily hit the $1,500 threshold that the policy says that the board needs to approve. And I threw that out there really as a question for board members to see if you would rather that we tighten that up and look more at the amount of the check coming in rather the amount of, or rather than what it's intended to fund. So that check happened to be for the scholarship that I talked about. Any comments, questions about that? Thoughts about it?
I think I'd like to just, I don't want to make it more burdensome to accept money. I think that's kind of crazy. We should make it easier, but we should systematically be able to account for anything that comes in on a regular basis. And I think the threshold of 1,500 for approval, in my opinion, might be a little low. But as long as we account,
I think that's standard. I think that
It's not optional.
it's not
No,
optional.
I
Okay,
don't think so
then
either.
that
That's
stands.
good,
But
you know.
we could
A lot
account
of the
for.
policies are coming through from the
Okay.
regulations from the state on what a public school system has to do.
So that's law.
Right.
Yeah. So we
I
can't
don't know
change
if it's
that.
law or if
But it's advised.
it's a
It's advised.
regulation.
Yeah, it's
So is
required.
it a regular? So is it?
I think it's a state ed regulation.
Yeah, it's not like
a
we thought
law.
about how much money we would think.
Right.
It's that amount's given to us, which happens a lot in the policies. It's just, we can play around with some of the other
So
words.
it's not
but-
advisement from the state saying this is what you
No.
should do. It's this
No.
is what you must do.
Yes.
So okay, but it's the
So-
equivalent of the law.
Yeah.
So we
You have to
should,
be able to do it. Okay, that's fine. But do we right now? I mean, do we have a system where we could get a report say here, this is how much we received?
So this is an example of the beginning of the system.
Okay.
And that's really what I'm here to tell you is that, we're gonna tighten this up.
Mhm.
So this would be how we would proceed with future gifts. I guess that, that this is one in which we're interpreting this as not meeting the $1,500 threshold. And if the board thinks that we're interpreting that incorrectly, then what we would do is with gifts like this one as well as future ones, we would then put that on as an action item to be accepted, a gift to be accepted by the board. Otherwise, we'll continue to do this with these types of gifts where the intent of the gift is actually to fund something less than $1,500. And then anything higher than that, we would of course make an action item. So this is how this would look if we keep it this way. If we
Right.
make a change, it would look a little different.
But because it was 8,000, but it was spread out over
Yeah.
multiple students, it really
Yeah.
doesn't meet the threshold, but maybe it does meet the threshold. So
Multiple students in multiple years too.
Right.
And
Multiple students, multiple
it's
years. Yeah.
4
this
students
was
over
to
2
catch
years.
up,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I read it, but it's.
Yeah, I
I can
think,
see how it could be a gray area,
Yeah.
but like I said, I don't really want to make it more burdensome. I'd rather make it less.
but I think in the future, we should, if the amount is $1,500, then I think it needs to go to us as an
So this
action
would
item.
fall into that.
Well, these are individual ones, so
but we can't,
But are
when
they?
it starts being divvied down to particular people though, and that we're not supposed to be, so. I think if it comes for 8,000, then it would go to the board and would accept 8,000, and then it's
then it's
divvied up, that's,
Right, that's not our business. Well, I mean,
how it's divvied
How
up
it's
is,
divvied up
as long as it meets our policy requirements, then.
So the
if-
policy
if the
says-
district is accepting $8,000, I think it should go,
So is the question, then, if it was 8 $1,000 checks, then we don't have to approve, but if it's one $8,000 check, then we do?
Yes.
Okay, I'm good with that, I just want to know what the rule is. Is that,
yeah, because then if we're, then I think there'd be a lot of, if you just look at the check amount and have it be decided that way, that then
That's
takes
easy.
all the subtle variables out of it.
So this would need to be a resolution then to accept this check,
You want to write that?
that we could add to.
Or moving forward. in
or just go,
this.
Or just
after this,
moving
going
forward.
forward, we
Yeah,
can
just
just say that's how we
So
should.
you guys would be okay if this one we keep as
Yeah.
information from the board? Superintendent will accept this.
Yeah.
And then from here on in, use the amount of the check as
As a
a
criteria.
determinant.
Yeah. I think then it's consistent.
Okay.
Not
And
that
that's easy,
I
there's no.
prefer it was higher,
takes the
but I can't.
judgment away from it.
Right. Okay.
All right, and then, so any other questions about that? Then we'll move on to the next, item under this was the creation of a, reserve fund, for, capital, BOCES capital.
The BOCES capital project.
So do you wanna
So,
talk about that?
yeah, so what we could do with some of the additional unassigned fund balance that we have is we could put this in the reserve fund specifically, a liability reserve fund specifically for the capital project. So when we do have to pay, we have, and this would be 3% of our budget, which would be the 561,000. So that's what we would put in that reserve. And when it comes time to make those disbursements, we could write checks right out of that account, and it would go directly to the BOCES.
I had a question, what happened with the vote that the districts did? Do we have
That's not happened yet.
No, the vote for the.
options?
The
So
option,
do we
yeah.
have the option, or was that?
No, the municipal agreement, and that was approved. So we do have that option.
We have options
Yes.
on how we pay for it.
Yes,
Right.
That went through.
yes.
Great. I don't think I knew that. So, okay, thank you.
So, I mean, this would be, and the whole intent here would be to lower that unassigned fund balance down closer to that 4%.
Mhm.
And we would put this reserve in effect, and then, you know, otherwise we would hold all the money still in unassigned fund balance and still be able to have it there for disbursement in this capital project. But that's the intent here is to, you know, get as close to that 4% as possible.
Is this new, has this been, just now been allowed, or is,
No,
This has
this
been
is,
allowed for a
it's
while.
out there,
okay,
and it's, you know, there's probably a little bit of gray area in this, but I ran it through our auditors, and I also ran it through some experts at Questar, and they agreed with me that that would fall in that category. And as long as it was, you know, specifically set, and we know that we have this liability of $1.4 million. That's standing. We know we're gonna have to pay that, so it's not possible, that's a probable
right.
amount, so we can, I think this reserve would be totally appropriate for that.
And then having this reserve and then having that money that we could put towards, for the BOCES, would then lower what would be then onto the taxpayers.
Right.
And also lower what we would have more to be able to, more of our own funds as far as continuing our programs.
Right. Yes, and actually I've got a couple questions, or response to that. One is, you know, I think our plan has been either to pay it all off at once or split it over 2 years, and not have to borrow and not then have to impact our programs and not add to, you know, the burden of the taxpayers. So this would allow that. My other question was, you know, in the legislature, I know they were considering a bill that would allow any BOCES capital expenditures, the component districts were going to be allowed to use that as an exemption for tax cap. Did that go through? Did it go through? So we are able to use
Yeah, no,
that.
I don't know if that was signed by the governor
Yeah, I don't know if that's
Okay.
totally.
but it did pass, it did pass, and it moved it past the need for a regulation to be established by one of the departments that was what was holding it up last time. So,
Okay, that's
yeah,
right.
so there's much more likelihood that we're gonna get, once we pay for this capital project, we'll be able to use it, that it won't be held against us for a tax cut. That's right.
Okay.
Right.
Leonard, ours, your number, the 1.4,
Right.
supposed to be the same as theirs that they have on the flyer, that's 1.5.
That changed. That 1.5 is, I mean, this brochure was probably printed before that.
So,
Now, the most recent information, and I believe this board had approved it, it had a 3-payment schedule on the last page. And the first payment is in that $180,000 range. The second one is like in the $500 or $600 range, $600,000 range, and then the last one is the remaining portion of it. So there's 2 payments in one school year, and then a third subsequent payment in the following school year.
Right, and it's about half and half. So the two.
Yeah, the two combined, yeah. The two combined. is about half and
we'll
half.
double check on those amounts, because we caught
Yeah,
that
it's
over here also.
1.4.
Right,
with this,
yeah.
and, we knew that the 1.4 something number was a revised number, revised down from a higher number, but we just need to double check. to make
Yeah,
sure that
I think this
something else
brochure,
didn't change since then.
when this Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is,
And then the last thing on there is the thank you note from George Miller, who coordinated that Ironman volunteers, so that was nice. We have linking agenda items with objectives.
So I have a question about this, and I was gonna call board docs and I didn't get to it, but, we linked last year to the strategic plan. And I'm wondering if there's a way that we can, like, keep that, log that, but then start fresh this year, so that we're not, because it's gonna get lost
Right.
in it.
But isn't it yearly? I haven't looked how the report prints out. Because we're gonna be doing a new goal.
Not to our yearly board objectives.
So let me look and see if, like, when you print that report out that shows like the percentage, if it's done by the year or how it's done.
I guess so what Patty's asking is, can we start over?
Right,
Without losing what we've
Without
already
losing
done.
what we already
Right.
have.
Something else.
So will you need two things?
I've joined the meetings like 3 times so far. So
You can be
sorry
like
about
Karen and have your two things in things.
Probably.
So I think in terms of linking it this year, linking, the audit committee report would go along with the finance goal, superintendent's report, the busing report in both situations would be students first and foremost, I think. Anything else? And that brings us to our discussion items, and I'm actually gonna go to the second one first, and so that we can just focus on the goals and objectives. So the fund balance allocation, Leonard, can you walk us through that?
Sure. So let's go to that first page. Now, I have this title audited, even though our audit report has not been finalized, and I know some of these figures might change. Well, they're probably going to change a little bit by the TRS. That's the retirement bill. We haven't had that expense adjusted in the 2016-17 year financials yet, so I know there will be a minor change to this, but through everything except for that particular expense being adjusted, everything else has been audited, so I still have it titled audited. We start out with the beginning of the unsigned fund balance of 1.46 million. Our earned revenue through June 30th of 2017 was $17,885,000 there. Then we reduced it by our expenditures of $17,538,000. We increased our fund balance from into our appropriated fund balance in the 17-18 year from last year was 430. It's up to 490 now, so that's a $60,000 reduction there, or increase, I'm sorry. And then increasing in our encumbrances from last year, we had a $98,000 carryover, and now it's at that 126, so there's a $32,000 adjustment there. We took out $22,130 of the EBLAR this year. Throughout the year, we had two. We had one of the retirements, and then also the one for Terry Gallagher was the other one. So, and there's a minor adjustment. This was an adjustment to the prior period adjustment that the auditors made to our accounts payable from last year. So that brings our unassigned fund balance $1,736,096.47, which is $275,118. That's the amount available that was put in to get to that $1,736,096.47. So as of June 30th, that's our unassigned fund balance at this point. So the next page shows our schedule of all of our restricted fund balance accounts, our assigned fund balance accounts, and our unassigned fund balance accounts. And this is just our schedule of fund equity. You have your unemployment reserve. There was no change from last year to the 2016-17 year. There was no change there. The tax certiorari, there was no change. There's the adjustment for the EBLAR, reducing that EBLAR for those two non-elective deferral amounts that were paid out in the 16-17 year. The appropriated fund balance went from 430 to 490, so there's the $60,000 adjustment there. Assigned reserve for encumbrances, that's the difference from last year's carryover encumbrances to this year, which is $32,000 adjustment there. And then you have your unassigned fund balance, which is at $275,000 figure that we have on the first page. Then the reconciliation section there just shows beginning total fund equity last year, our increase in revenue or decreases, which are our expenses there, and then that minor adjustment, $980, it shows. That's the reconciliation from this year's net results to the total overall fund equity. The next page is a couple of options that we have, making some adjustments to the unassigned fund balance. And these are options. I mean, there was probably, you could have 10 or 20 more options if you wanted to, but I mean, I'm just putting these out there for information purposes. If we took 200,000 and moved that into EBLAR, that would be an adjustment in option 1. That would show our overall fund balance, or unassigned fund balance, at 8.2%, which is 4.2% above the 4% limit that the state looks at, having us maintain that level. The next option would be move 300,000 into the EBLAR account. That would reduce our unassigned fund balance to 7.67%, or 3.67% above the 4% state limit. This third option here shows the establishing that liability reserve for BOCES. That would bring our fund balance, unassigned fund balance, down to 6.27% of our total 17-18 budget, which would be 2.27% above the state limit. Option number 4 just shows what we could do to get it right to the 4% if you wanted to do that. We move 425,000, that would be a recommended amount, into the EBLAR, 425,000, the 561,000 into the liability reserve, and that would bring our unassigned fund balance right at the 4% level that the state likes to see. That's the last page of that. I know there's a lot of information there and it's kind of complicated, but are there any questions?
When we talked about, I think, maybe last year, with regard to the 4%, I think it might have been the auditor, maybe you said it, that the state does have some leeway in allowing you to be a little bit above that if you have those funds, you have an intended plan for those funds, even though they're unassigned at the moment.
I think if you look at the regulation, it's pretty specific. It's 4%, and they basically say, you got to be at 4%. They don't want you under, and they don't want you over.
Okay.
But I know when we had our state audit last year, I mean, that was one of the questions I rose and said, look, if you've got money, if you have a contingent liability that you're going to have that money, that you have that expense. Right. As long as you have a good reason to maintain or to have that, I think you'd be fine. We had it was above 4% when we had our state audit.
Right, it was specifically for BOCES, the BOCES upcoming
Right.
BOCES expenditure, yeah.
And
Right.
the auditor this year said the same thing.
Okay.
Our local auditor
Yeah.
said the same thing.
Yeah.
if it's up 10%, 12%, then we're gonna get some attention.
If we didn't do anything, if we just left it all in unassigned fund balance, we'd be right at that nine, I figured it was 9.2%, 9.27, I think was the amount.
So it is on one of our action items to vote on an option tonight, if people feel comfortable doing that, I guess.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, you know, if you don't feel comfortable doing it tonight, I think we could definitely postpone it, because we're not gonna really be able to make that recommended option until after the BOCES
September
vote.
21st.
Right.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's fine if you wanna wait.
So,
If it goes down, if the vote is defeated, we wouldn't
We wouldn't need that.
establish the reserve.
Right, we wouldn't have to do that, but then we'd have some.
and then would you have like a fifth option where you're trying to get closer to the 4% if the BOCES thing didn't pass?
Well, we could make it a combination of these four options that are there now. I mean, there's a lot of options. There's, like I said, we could probably put 20 options together, but I think these are the ones that are more realistic that we'd want to look at.
So it is okay to wait, we should just wait till after the vote.
Yeah, let's wait.
I think so. I think that's
Yeah, and then by that point, the audit would be done, so the.
And then
Right.
we would have a firm, so if the vote passes and they're moving forward, the amount, the gross share total cost that's different here than in there, is that gonna be
That would be definitely.
finalized?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that gonna be set?
I mean, it's definitely finalized in that.
we should know that before we vote.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. And that's not something that's gonna just keep fluctuating.
No.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I think
say we wait.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is, in the unlikely event that this doesn't pass, we're gonna have quite a bit of extra fund balance there. What is,
Right.
and these options really don't address that at the moment, right?
Yeah,
No.
they do. Well, they do, if we put, you've got the EBLAR account.
Yeah.
We can put it in LR,
Yeah,
right?
you can put it in,
You could do a return of capital, so you can
Yeah.
give back to the taxpayers, couldn't you?
We could.
I mean, it's an option. I'm
Yeah.
not suggesting it, but that would be an option.
okay.
Just for your, I mean, that EBLAR is, we're well, I'm not gonna say we're grossly underfunded, but we are significantly underfunded in that EBLAR account. If we had to, make some adjustments, that would be a recommendation. Because with the number of staff that we have retiring in the next 5 to 10 years, that's gonna get depleted real quick.
Thanks.
So the next agenda item is a little lengthy, but our goals and objectives.
I can't open this for some reason. Just keep downloading it.
Yeah, me too. Mine just did that. I just did
But,
that.
I mean, you,
It downloads, but you can click on the download and
and
it.
it'll-
Karen, are you able to pull up the Google Doc? 'Cause
Mhm.
you're-
Oh, whatever. Okay.
Did I put it in the drive? It'll show up in both, so you can just put in, just click on that, it should be there. You can use the search bar if it's not popping up easy. Up on the very top above my drive. Yeah, put in board objectives. I think that's what you had it labeled. Yeah. And it just takes a minute and then you should see his anyways. So,
This was from last year.
That was last year's?
Yeah, because I haven't gotten to it.
16, 17,
Yeah,
on the top.
I'm looking at stuff we talked about that we were gonna take out of this, and they're still here. Like the Plattsburgh State thing is still in there. Under goal two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this,
'cause
this
we haven't
one
done
is,
that
but
yet.
we haven't done that yet.
That's
Okay.
what, that's
Is
what
that
this
why?
is
This
about.
is still the old one, this would be,
I wonder if I'm in, oh, that's what it is, sorry. I gotta get into the right account.
Yeah, I got locked out.
Got locked out. Well, hmm. Yeah, I was having a problem with that too.
I'm in it, but it's harder to see in the iPad, it's harder to see the comments. So. I don't know if I can tell who, it says Karen
I'm sorry.
invited me.
Oh, here we go.
Karen, how do we get to that document?
You have to be into your,
You have to be in the Google Docs.
you have to be in your Mary M. Dietrich at LPCSD.net.
Therein has been my problem because it's not been letting me do that.
But it's exactly the same as it's exactly the same as what's in Board Docs. It's just that I don't know what Rick's comments are, and that's the only way we'll be able to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it has Rick stuff comments in here.
Okay, so we can just go through it.
We can go through, yeah, we'll be able to go through it on Board Docs,
Okay,
and then Karen will be Rick.
Karen will be Rick.
If we're near something that he commented on, then we can.
All right.
So Patty,
Yeah.
when we're
No,
looking
can't
at this and there are things that people want to make changes to,
Yeah, so when it gets to the word, if you click on the highlighted part on the word, then that features what he was saying about that word. See how that just kind of moves
yeah, do we
forward?
want to continue to move in this direction?
Yeah,
So, okay, so he has a comment about that, but I can't read that comment.
It says, do we want to continue to move in this direction?
I do. I mean, I think.
Which goal?
I guess, yeah, this is the students
This
first
is
and
what-
foremost, so this would support the development of programs and initiatives that expand the global awareness, including experiences that increase international and cultural understanding, tolerance, and acceptance. I think now more than ever, we need to be doing that. Got it.
I had to keep that one. The one thing I thought about this in general is there are several things that we have to, at the beginning of this, there's several things that we've taken care of. So similar to the linking the goals with a strategic plan, it would be nice, and I don't think we'll accomplish it tonight, but if we take the goals and the parts that we might remove, that we have a document that we could save to just the documents on Board Docs for our objectives this year, to be able to show what we took off, but that we addressed it.
We've addressed it.
Just have a document that shows that it was addressed, not that it
Not
just
that we just
disappeared
right.
the following year.
I think we
And then-
tried to do that. I think
Yeah, we
that
did.
last year.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know exactly where the document is, but I think we
So maybe those things on this I'll put in red.
yeah, and then we
I
could.
feel we can transfer it over to different.
And that
documents.
way then on Board Docs, we can have the 2016-17 board objectives as a document,
Right.
and then
this
start
is-
fresh
Right.
with
And
this year's.
Then this will be 2016 would be what we have addressed.
Yeah,
And really, we have addressed all of them in here, but some I think we
In
want to
part,
continue.
continue, yeah.
So the
Continue.
first one where it says support, we're going to, I think we would add continue to support.
yeah, I'm good with keeping it as is.
I mean, I'm also gonna put it in red, in that we did address it this year,
Yeah, that would be for a separate.
separate document.
Document.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep track of that. You can
separate
if you can keep track of the changes that we're making.
So am I gonna put in
So are
contingent,
we-
is
are
this
we-
good, what you want me to do?
Yes,
Continue to support, yeah, and the S could be small. Appoint a foreign student program coordinator. That hasn't happened officially, but we did take steps this year.
yeah.
I mean, we've approved it conceptually.
So do you, what do you want me to
So
do with
Just- I
this?
think we just keep it as is, right?
Yep.
Because we're still waiting to do it.
But I'm also gonna put it in red. And then encourage presentation and assemblies that expose different students to different cultures and experiences. I think where we may not have had school-wide assemblies, I think it certainly has happened within the classroom. But I think it's something we still want to continue to encourage.
So Rick's comment on that was, would like to see a goal include number of presentations.
That would be for the board, because it's board objectives, so that might be a good idea, that we, so it would probably be separate, that request whatever number you think is appropriate for board presentations. Because we'd be encouraging presentations in general.
And then a report to the board in terms of what that's entailed. I mean,
Yeah,
how we have
or to actually
to get one,
yeah.
or to maybe,
So I think it would be keep that one and then add
add
request board presentation.
maybe once a semester.
I mean, if it's two of those.
So we've had a couple and we've had some last year that,
We had one, we had
Kara,
Kara come in,
Right.
and present.
yeah.
Well, and also we had the presentation, in Mrs. Hamley.
Yes.
about this time last year.
Yeah, so
Right.
we did have them, but that probably is a good idea to have a.
Maybe as a second
per
sentence.
semester. Yeah,
That
a
is a
separate,
second sentence. Invite presentations,
Who does that?
the board would invite,
All right. How do we find out who to invite?
we talk with Roger.
Okay. I'm just wondering who owns it.
It's our meeting, so we do the invitation, but it
Okay.
would go through Roger.
All right. So we could actually set a date twice a year. Say
Twice
we'd
a
like a
year,
presentation of this date and this date, and way ahead of time, we'll say,
Well,
you know,
we
to Roger.
could say, once
Could
each
we-
semester, so.
Yeah.
um,
Could you scare somebody up to come in and talk about?
Right.
Yeah.
that
There
would
may be a ton of people who want
And
to.
if we have, I don't know, I know the one foreign exchange student from Vietnam had visa problems, so was she the only student we had coming? And
No, we have two. We have one that's playing soccer, don't we?
so it would be
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
I think it would be
Is he
nice to
here?
have
I
one,
believe so, yeah, Jack said
one of those
today.
presentations at the beginning of the year, and let us meet this
From Chile.
student.
Yes.
Can you make it separate, Karen? Can you make it another, like, below? Because we're gonna encourage them in general, and then this.
So we
thank
would
you.
say request presentations, request one presentation each semester.
And do you think we can fit that in for? Or just one half of the year and the second half of the year, two?
One, two.
I was thinking more
That'd be one
periods,
board
I guess,
presentation.
so.
So it'd
Not
be two in
semester.
so it would be,
But I mean, Roger, how many assemblies like that do we have in a given year? Is it just sort of happens organically, or do we?
I think they do happen organically, and they also happen, and I think Mary mentioned this before, they're not always for all school assemblies, but
Right.
different groups of kids in different grade
Certain
levels.
classes.
We are trying to build on that, and you had a presentation from our French teacher,
Right, yeah, that was awesome.
last spring, and, through her efforts and Jenny Lawrence and others, we are trying to build in multiple different ways for international issues and
Yeah.
topics and cultural events to be, raised and.
I mean, so this is a really good goal, because it is sort of encouraging that behavior and those things to continue, so.
there anything else we want to add to this?
No.
Education?
So Rick's comment here says, support and review the special education / PPS program infrastructure to best meet the needs of students and families.
Can you do that one more time?
Yep, support and review the special education / PPS program and infrastructure to best meet the needs of students and families.
PPS.
I was gonna ask
What is PPS?
Pupil Personnel Services. I assume that's what he said. And that's sort of a broad term for different support systems that are in place throughout school systems, and involves things like psychological services and counseling services and special education and other support services. I think that's what he's referring to. I had the same question, but I think that's what he's referring to.
And that would replace, what he's saying is use that, replace the first one. Thank you for bringing that up.
I think we started the first one and we should change the wording and keep the first one, and then that would be separate. What he's asking would be separate, but it's under the same idea that we want to make sure that there are services in place to help.
Rick says you're correct.
What?
That's what it is. He's listening.
Oh, all right.
Hi, Rick.
That's funny. Okay, so that we would add that.
Yeah, he wants to add it in
Add it
underneath
into-
the
Yes,
So where would you add this into?
I would put it right after. I think it could go first or it could go second.
I think it would go second, because this year we did begin the process to
Right.
recognize
So you're gonna make it a new paragraph?
Yes, a new bullet point
under
No.
that.
under, right there, yep.
He's asking to add that paragraph up under strategic goal number 1.
Oh,
If you click it, yeah. See the red box that just highlighted? That's where he's got the comment.
yeah, but click on the word begin the process and see what pops up. Oh. that's
That brings up you.
All right, so, yeah, I guess he is talking about it. We
That-
can find out about it, though. If you put it in, we can move it when we clean it up.
So, yep, so put it in under students first and foremost. I think it goes there too.
If you want to look at this, I got Rick's
No, I've got,
comments too.
yeah, no, I got, well, I didn't get Rick's, but I have.
Okay.
It let me
And then
into it.
here, where it says begin the process, he says eliminate, begin, and add continue to monitor and address.
Good. I like that. And I'm gonna put that one in red because we did begin it.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if we can, there were some things that we recognized that I wonder if we can address more specifically for the board objectives. Busing is one of them, and the community service hours is another one, and, you know, for the board objectives to maybe get a little more specific.
Well, we could add, we could say, he's got, continue the process, and then we could just add another statement, or a comma. and
After
specifically-
deficiencies?
Specific steps
Specifically,
to address.
Focus on busing and community service requirements. Excuse me.
So add here to address.
Is that a for example, or is that
But I
specifically
think we're,
to,
that's really
those are
two,
the two things
things.
this year we're gonna focus on.
it's.
Two things that were recognized last year when we
Right.
were beginning the process to
Right.
recognize that maybe we can calm down on
It's
this year.
not limiting us to that, but
Right.
we do wanna make sure we resolve those issues.
The reason I ask is because we went through this last year, one of the things we were trying to avoid was to, get this all cluttered up with specifics.
Right.
We wanted to link to something that said, yeah, and for example, busing, for example, these things that we've actually done, but not have it as part of this document, because then all of a sudden this thing becomes not a bullet point
Yeah,
document,
but I think the difference is we've already identified those as areas we want to address.
Right, but
So
there may be others.
But there's other sections that are coming out, so it would just be, instead of having multiple broader areas, there's some that I think would be eliminating, and then in this area, we can hone it down to the more specific.
Okay. 'Cause, I mean, this changes every year.
Right.
Yeah.
So this
Right.
is what we're gonna, that's why I asked, this is what we're focusing on this year, these two. Fine.
So am I adding in specifically to address what?
Busing and community service requirements.
Well, it's the double hours.
Well, that's requirement.
That-
Well, it's
The
the hours, yeah.
You don't want, because you're not gonna want to
Criteria.
penalize kids.
criteria, does that
Yeah.
include, the criteria would include the double hours?
Yeah. Assure that there are a wide variety of classes and activities available to all students. I mean, we want to me, we've done that. I mean, we did that with maintaining programs with the budget. But it's not something we just want to.
I don't think there's an issue with keeping it.
No,
Yeah, or say continue to, like we did in the first one.
continue to assure.
Yeah.
Can you add that here?
I'm sorry, where did you want me to put that?
Continue to assure that there are.
Oh, in here at the beginning.
The third one is something that is ongoing forever.
Well, and the third one, the recognize, that speaks to the, recognize effort and provide support, speaks to getting more specific in the one above.
Right.
Because if that's needed, if there's something that we can do at the board level in order to make that happen on both those items, then that would be, so I think it links.
This next one, in order to get an accurate starting point that was investigated and it was really found to not be
I think that should just go.
possible, so it should.
Yeah, but I think on that separate document that we
It's very
show that
We
it
did
was
that, sure.
investigated.
Yeah, because I think once you, as you read these, you're gonna be referencing something more comprehensive,
So,
in all these line items.
So we're just gonna take that one out.
and that's what Rick says is eliminated.
Yeah.
But, he did have one more comment up here where he said, add, address school lunch issues or potential issues. At the end of this one here, recognize efforts and provide support efforts that focus on closing the opportunity gap for socioeconomically disadvantaged
Yeah,
students.
And you know what, I think what he's, maybe you can tune in, but
Verify.
I think maybe what he's talking about is the fact that we're at the 42%
Right,
mark now, and there's, we do qualify to provide free lunches, free breakfast and lunches to all.
to everybody.
And so I think maybe it would be a separate objective is to study that and.
And we
figure out
might be
that's-
able to go up under the specifics if we just had 3 specifics that we would focus in on.
So up at number 1, add, we've got busing, it would be busing, comma, community service criteria, comma, and, school
School
lunches.
lunches, that kind of fits with the other.
Okay, a question for Roger. Has anything changed since
The last, I did
you
check,
reported that?
I did check, and at the end of last year, our percentage had actually dropped a little from 42 to about 40 and a half. It was like 40.5%, which is a little bit lower. And the reason I checked was because when we did start digging into, this is a
Rick
little bit
said
off topic,
yes.
when we did start digging into the question about could we provide free lunches now that we, for everybody, and how, what would that take? One of the questions that came up was, what if we went backwards and dropped below the 40%?
Right.
So I went to look at the trend, and the trend had at least at the end of the year, was to drop back a little bit. So that, so that means that we're gonna, keep on following that trend and see whether that's continuing to go in that direction, or whether that was just, the nature of the end of the school year when populations change and all that. So we'll see at the start of this school year what we're looking like, and we have started the ball rolling and investigating that. But again, we have some, it's complicated, and that was one of the big complications. Is what happens if that 40% line becomes something you cross one way and the other.
Yeah.
Right.
We're a little worried about
Say
that.
we go forward and
Right.
then we go
What we
under.
don't want to do is to start a program that we then can't continue.
Right.
And that was really our number one.
Is that what happens when you go under the 42?
Well, we're
Because if
Is
you're right
it-
at the
is it
cusp.
42 or is it 40?
well, it was 42.
Okay.
It's
No, I
40,
mean,
yeah.
to qualify for
It's
the
40.
40.
Yes.
Okay, so we're
Right.
right
But we had
at
hit
that.
42.
Right,
Yeah.
So, we were going this way, which,
right.
is not a great trend, but it's helpful in this case. But we went that way and then just a little tick down at the end of the year. So we'll see if that continues. We're paying attention. We've got our new food service director interested in investigating, Leonard also investigating, and a few other people.
So this one where it says review the plan to reduce barriers, Rick says, good objective, perhaps a reword.
We did review it. We did get a report from Roger. We did ask, we did, I think we wanted feedback we got feedback from Roger. I think one of the things we had was maybe from the teachers.
Teachers or guidance, we talked about
Yes,
getting
guidance,
feedback
yeah.
specific as to if they're seeing a change as far as more students being interested, or what there might still be as barriers, to get a report. We talked about getting a report from guidance as
Right.
far as if they see that it's working, or what other things might be needed to help get more students interested.
This plan we're talking about though, is it in, right? Is it something that's
Yes.
written that you can actually review?
Yes.
Okay. And
We did review it. I mean, Roger presented it to
I
us.
remember the presentation.
Yeah,
yes,
um,
but I didn't realize.
So we have
And
a
it's been
plan in place.
implemented,
Yeah.
but we were hoping to just see, like, and that all seems really positive, but now to maybe get the feedback to say,
So really what
It's helping.
So we have the plan and we've seen the plan, so really what we want is the feedback. So the first part, review the plan to reduce barriers, we don't really need to do that. What we really want
Is respond to
is
the
the-
information we've got.
is to request feedback from guidance.
so the second part, there's like a dash at the
Yes.
end of it, so if we move that to the front,
Yes, that's what we want.
make it a capital R and then request the feedback. Do you see where the dash is? Oh,
The
you already
second
moved it.
Down here,
The bottom there.
To assess if the implementation has
Right, yes,
resulted in increased participation for the courses. So I think that whole thing would go to the top. Would be the first part of it.
And then just eliminate the other part.
eliminate the review.
And
Right, you want
or
to add implementation of the plan to reduce barriers and prevent student, you want to add that. You want to say request feedback to assess if the implementation of the plan.
That's right, you need to
You
review
need
that.
to say that of the plan to reduce barriers that prevent student participation in college level courses.
has
Then the rest of it can go.
resulted.
yeah, and you could probably even maybe do parentheses and include those, because if someone fresh is reading it, then they'll know that the plan includes the AP and
Right.
model OAS.
Right.
Yeah.
She likes typing.
She's good at typing.
Sometimes,
I would have highlighted and cut right off.
That, like that?
I'm gonna reread it, but for now.
Yeah, we'll be able to clean it up.
And then the last one, identify curricular areas that prevent the district from meeting or exceeding state test averages, request a plan to establish steps to address those. We did that, but we want to continually assess that, so.
Yeah, I think we just keep that, because every year it changes, so we can't say continue, I think we
I
just
think it's
keep
fine.
it
Yeah.
identified, because every year there might be something new.
Right.
Thank you.
I agree. All right, but we did, I put all of those in red in terms of
Yeah.
we did address them, so. Strategic goal number 3, community outreach and involvement. First board objective is to review and update communication strategies based on ideas found in the district strategic plan with specific focus on reaching groups and individuals without direct school involvement. I think that's something we continually struggle with. And we continue to need to work on that.
I'm wondering if, and I don't know if they're in the strategic plan, I have to take another look at it, but maybe we could just focus on one or two, like last year it was attending meetings, we could do that again, or look at something else in there that we think might be a way to reach out and just have one thing in that. But that we would try to do.
We would try to do it. It's
we
simply
as
the board.
board,
Yeah.
not that we would task to Roger.
And I think the second one, I think we should make our rounds again. I think we should leave that in there. 10 meetings of other organizations.
So maybe on that one, maybe we can think on that and just look over the strategic plan and see if there might be something else in there that we haven't done.
Yeah, maybe Karen, maybe on the first one, just put in parentheses and maybe italicize it for us. It's just a reminder for us to review the strategic plan for
Communication strategy.
for communication strategy.
You want me to just make it italics like that?
No, I wanted you to add it. I don't want that to be in italics. I want you to just add some. It's a reminder of us, for us. We need to review that and then maybe
Pull out one or two specifics.
Yep. Continue to research technology, especially board docs that allows for recording and reviewing board meetings and work sessions. I think we can take that out. I think we found our tool that seems to be working fairly well.
And then Rick has add paragraph on this one. He doesn't give any.
This one, develop a means to communicate new program ideas and suggestions. This is one we didn't. This is an ongoing one. I think what this is sometimes we have people come to us with ideas for offering courses a course that they would like to offer at night, and so then, the question always is, well, how do we communicate that information? And sometimes people come with their ideas, but they want us to implement them. And so
Maybe we could take that, maybe we could tie that to the first one and going back over the communication strategies as far as if someone comes to us with an idea, how we would be able to, to focus in, that would be one of the, because that was brought up with the communication, that was brought up in communication
No, you're
on a
right.
strategic plan.
Yeah.
Maybe we can tie that one,
They're
Kinda
they're
take it
kind of
off.
the same thing.
kind of take it off, but
maybe
relocate
Add
it
to it, yeah, I think that makes more sense.
maybe
to a specific on how if someone comes to us, how we would then get that to the people that need to get it, if we could come up with some sort of a structure.
So we can take this one out, but we'll connect it with
Number one.
number 1.
Yeah,
The first one.
So that one we're gonna
Take it out.
take it out. And I'm gonna leave that one.
or take number 1 and move it down to the bottom where that is, and then-
Well, we could say review and update communication strategies based on ideas found in the district strategic plan with specific focus on reaching groups and individuals without direct school involvement. Third period. or put a dash and say, with a focus on how to communicate new program ideas and suggestions. We could add it to that if you wanted.
Yeah, I think there's probably a way to make it.
Or you say, for example,
Yeah, for example.
the means develop a means to communicate program ideas and suggestions.
Yeah.
Because there may be others that fall under that.
Right.
Yeah, I think they're in that other document. So
Yeah.
we'll just review that, yeah.
Did you want me to put that, for example, develop a means to identify and
Yeah,
communicate?
for now, I mean, we
Yeah.
might take it out. but
And then
for
we
now.
can,
So you're not forgetting the thought, at least
Right,
it's there.
it's there. Anything else under that one? Strategic goal number 4, leadership. First board objective, work with the superintendent to review and update the district organizational chart. That was accomplished.
I think we should, we did that, but it would be, I'm wondering if we could keep, because it links under leadership,
I'm looking for it, actually.
to, what's funny, either post or utilize for when we have the situations that we or look to that, just to make sure that we're going through.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
can put
Can we
that
publish it back on, put it back on the wall?
to publish, yeah, post it on,
So,
post it.
yeah, I had put
Post.
post the organizational chart and utilize it.
Yeah.
When
For when
making
evaluating
decisions.
situations, both positive and negative.
So that goes in
Make sure
place
that
of the
we-
one that's there now, that the work with, right?
Yeah.
That's gonna replace it.
To make sure we get the feedback back when it's something positive, that we're making sure that.
So did you get that, Karen?
I put post organizational chart and utilize.
When making decisions.
And evaluating in situations.
When evaluating decisions, that's probably what I'm saying.
But I mean, posting is sort of metaphorically here.
So when
but it's-
evaluating decisions.
Yeah, no, situations.
Situations.
and evaluating.
And then I had put, and I don't know if you wanted there, but both positive and negative.
I don't think, but we can, I don't know that it's necessary, you know.
Yeah.
Situation is
Or
a situation.
right.
And then the next one we
And then
have,
take out the rest of that. Work with the superintendent to review and update, right?
says work, yeah, you can take that out, we did that. It's been done, now it's, we need to use it. Yeah. And then the next one under there was review the superintendent's document, recruitment, retention, succession planning for key positions, evaluate to consider options to implement for greater future preparedness. We did do the review. I don't know what you want to do with that.
You need a plan.
Hmm.
You need a plan.
Well, that's what. Yeah, maybe that's what we put in there.
Take steps to
Implement,
to plan.
to plan for future changes.
How about for the, and then just take out,
There you go.
oops.
For
Yeah,
greater
it's
future
just me saying like,
preparedness.
but implement instead of review.
And then put the recruitment, how's this? Take steps to plan for the recruitment, retention, and succession planning for key positions.
Well, you can take out planning, you can just say for the recruitment, retention, and succession for key positions. Because we're taking steps to plan, we don't need to plan in.
Planning.
So
Right.
take
So take out
steps.
the word planning.
Mm-hmm.
Revise and implement.
Like that.
There you go, that's even better.
Where are we putting that?
Instead of plan,
And
instead of
success,
plan for.
Yeah,
take steps to revise and implement.
right.
Do we need the words take steps?
I don't think so.
No,
I think we
no.
could just
That's
do,
what it is.
so I think you take steps out and just say revise and implement.
But did that just turn into Roger's objective?
No,
I don't think so.
no, it can be us.
Okay.
Implement. Revise and implement. We shouldn't have 4 in there.
Take up the first 4 here.
Revise and implement.
The recruitment, retention, accession planning for key positions
Mhm.
by the superintendent,
No,
because it's
No.
his document.
yeah, but, we're doing the implementing. We're doing the implementing.
Right.
I think you can take out the last sentence, because if we're revising and implementing, we're evaluating. We can add revise, evaluate, revise, and implement it.
Can you read that whole last sentence?
Yes.
And just put the word
Yes.
evaluate in the front of the
Right.
of that line.
We just say evaluate, revise, and implement.
Like that. Evaluate, revise, and implement the recruitment, retention, accession planning for key positions.
Yes.
Okay.
What if we don't revise? Can we just evaluate and implement?
Well, we may not
Yeah,
do
you
that,
can-
yeah.
So if you evaluate.
But
you
we might,
revise or
I
not.
mean, we may need to revise it for, I mean,
Right.
that has to be on, it should be on.
Revising,
Yeah.
yeah, because the
Well, if
key
you're-
positions can constantly be changing.
Okay.
Right.
We can do it.
Anything else under that one?
Mhm.
Technology, support the district multi-year purchase and replacement plan to ensure that all students have equal access to technology. Did
And
that,
the
I think,
second one where it says request a presentation, done, do we need any additional updates?
Yes,
yes,
because when they did the presentation, a lot hadn't been,
right.
wasn't
The-
here yet,
Even
so.
even the approval of our,
Right.
what's the grant the state's
Smart
doing?
schools.
Smart schools hasn't been approved yet, so we would want information about that process, so. Again, we'll want a presentation.
And we should link it to just so we don't lose track of the presentations to a month.
Right.
Not that not that would, have to,
I think last year we did it in February.
But we want it to end up on an agenda at some point.
Right.
correct,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
But
Just
maybe
not-
we can do January so that we're not getting into budget.
Budget, yep, that's bad, yeah.
And then if it can't happen, then we can always, we'll have flexibility with it, just to have it be on the.
You know,
Maybe request a presentation in January by the district technology coordinator to the board on progress being made in the implementation of the plan.
And that would be a really good report to get prior to doing budget too,
Yeah.
to see where the money's going.
Anything else under that? Finally, finance. The first one, formalize the capital project plan presented by the Health and Safety for Buildings and Grounds Committee to maintain and monitor buildings and grounds for high energy, safety, security, and efficiency levels. We did do that. It's been approved. But we will be continuing to plan.
monitor progress.
Yeah, good, that's good. Monitor the progress.
Where are you at?
The
Strategic goals,
implementation.
First one.
The first one,
Monitor, you said,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
monitor the progress of the capital project plan.
What's the capital project at this point, right?
For the capital project, yes.
Yeah.
Take plan out, yeah.
that'll be the plan.
Educate, never,
You could almost get rid of more of that sentence.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
Get rid of plan presented by the Health and Safety
Right.
for Building
Yeah.
and Grounds
And
Committee.
just put period after,
Yeah.
monitor the progress of the capital project.
yeah, maybe by having, periodic reports from the Building and Grounds Committee.
Should that be an agenda item? I mean, ongoing? mean, maybe once or.
There's
twice
not
a-
a lot, I mean, probably quarterly anyway.
Well, that's what I mean, yeah, something like
I mean,
that.
there's meetings quarterly, so we could have a report, so we could have
Even if we
quarterly
did it.
reports.
And that
Because
would
it's
be,
starting to happen. Even if it's twice a year right now, so we start kicking this thing off into high gear, then it must,
Well, that committee meets quarterly, so there could be quarterly
quarterly would
reports.
certainly be,
Yeah,
I
so,
think,
we
great.
could just do reports to the board for the committees.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, just.
And that
then
would
you
be
don't have to do a
captured in that
presentation.
one.
So that, then it gives you something that actually you can measure and say, hey, yeah, this is where we are,
Mhm.
and if it's on the agenda.
Right, and some of the earlier strategic goals,
Mhm.
when it was talking about, I'm thinking like might involve the shared decision-making committee. So reports to the board could just be, we'll link back to these objectives.
yeah, but I think reports from the committees should go under community outreach and involvement. I think that's where that goal would go, or objective would go.
Yeah, I think it'll end up linking to
Right.
a lot of other areas.
So if you can go back up to community outreach and involvement, Karen, and add another bullet point. But,
Quarterly reports.
quarterly reports
For that specific one,
from all committees.
all committee. Okay, I was really just worried about that one. But, okay.
Yeah, but,
If it's
I mean,
applicable.
if it's
Well, it would just be, I mean, even if it's,
then it's nothing's
if it's
happening.
just an
yeah.
outline, like these are the,
Nothing
you know,
to
some
report.
policy, these are the policies that were hit on, or this is one that we're looking into, it just,
And it can be a written report.
exactly, it would
Goes
just
in
be posted.
information.
Right, or it could be nothing.
And then if no one has any questions,
Right.
no, it would have to be something, because they meet quarterly, so.
They meet,
Yeah.
some meet more often.
But it could be
Alright.
brief, but,
Alright.
yeah,
Very good.
that'll be good.
So then if we go back down to finance, the board objective, finance would be monitor the progress of the capital project, period.
And the rest comes out,
The rest comes out.
and educate the stakeholders that was
That
done.
comes
All
out.
gone.
Garnering support, that was done.
So Rick has a comment on eliminate and add, continue to monitor FEH BOCES administrative budget.
Yes, that's
Instead
the
of
next
become a
one. Instead of
leader,
become
because
a
you've
leader,
already
which
done
we
it.
did that.
Yeah. He's a-
So do we want to just add in his language here?
Yes.
I'm
I know.
typing the word eliminate.
Can you just copy it?
I don't know, can you do that?
Yes, you
Sure.
can.
Are you sure?
Can you go to the top? Or eliminate? Oh, okay. I don't know. Go ahead.
No, it doesn't want me to do that.
Well, that's-
I'll just put in here, and continue to add Rick's language.
All right, Karen, I'm gonna see if this works.
No, it won't even do it.
Just put it in. for-
Oh, look at him,
Oh,
way to go.
Yay. Okay, the next one, in order to make well-informed decisions regarding district property, shared use, special events, and events hosted by outside groups, create a document that identifies the current property lines and shared property areas.
Yes,
Yes.
keep it.
Where is that document?
We got the
We've got the
surveys done, but we
surveys
don't
done,
have
but
the
we don't have
documents,
the
so that's why we
documents.
need to keep it
We have
as
the
is,
presentation
pretty
for
And
much.
then review agreements for all properties that have a shared use. That still is something I think we should do.
and he says add paragraph 2 times. See here,
What paragraph?
Should probably get a severe.
I don't know, but he says up here also, add paragraph.
We did that survey. Look at it.
There was a surveyor out at the elementary school last week.
Yeah, that part of it's been done, it's the,
I know who it was.
It's, it's the,
What did he want added?
It just says add paragraph, see here, it says add paragraph. I wonder, wait, I wonder if it's in, he said he sent me an email.
Oh, here it is. Look, it's
He sending it?
like a ghost from beyond, yeah. Sincere apologies, and here's my wording. Karen will be able to fix it.
Oh, so that's what he's saying is, so he hasn't, so this is his document. And he wants,
It's here, maybe.
it's document, but it's specific to board members, like that we would, as far as attending the meetings and.
Isn't that mean?
So this is,
so here it says
this would
provide
be a
serial
different-
updates to all stakeholders regarding the approved capital project plan.
so I don't know that it goes under fiscal responsibility.
More community
Or,
outreach.
this is, what he has is, this is specific to members of the Board of Education. Lake Placid Central, it's almost a strategic goal number 7. It's almost adding a 7th goal to the strategic plan. It's Lake Placid Central School District will hold itself to the highest standard possible out of respect to the school and community that we serve. The members of the board will participate in education opportunities and workshops offered to them.
Oh, yeah,
The-
you're right.
The members
it
of the
is.
board will see themselves as contributing members of the education community. Board members will attend at least 80% of the meetings held each year. Board members speak with one voice. Board members are able to communicate goals and missions of the district to the community. Complete and operationalize an annual documentation process to identify actual and perceived conflicts of interest.
So it would be, well, these are our, it's doing ours. Board objectives, so it would not really be a strategic
We wouldn't
goal,
link
it would be a
It would
board
be a
objective.
board,
We could do it at the beginning of our objectives, and then
That's
the
almost a
rest of
vision
it.
statement.
well, it's specific goals underneath it. So it's,
Like specific, but it would be an objective at the top for board objectives.
I would put it as a goal first. What's he got?
Well-
Specific, because it's, Lake Placid, this is where the mission statement is for us. Lake Placid Central School District will hold itself to the highest standard possible out of respect to the school and community that we serve. And then below that would be the goals,
Right.
the objectives. to
But the only
accomplish
thing
that.
with that is that we're doing our board objectives because we've tied all of our objectives to the strategic plan goals.
Mhm.
So I think we'd have to word it as,
Well,
Or figure out which goal it links to, if there is one.
yeah, I don't think we can add it as a goal. I think we have to, I mean, I think we could just say it as
it's
an
leadership.
objective.
We put it in as leadership.
Leadership, perfect.
It goes under leadership.
Yeah.
So that paragraph, Karen, will go under leadership. Mission back. It's just my favorite.
Yeah, and we would do it at the top.
Like here,
I think it would be the first thing, 'cause
First
that would
thing,
be
yep.
setting the tone for the year.
I like it.
Like that?
I'm gonna have to reread his wording.
Yeah, and
Not
we might,
so tight.
we might run a reformat
can
of
merge
it, but
it,
yeah, it
right.
looks good. Okay, so, set, let's move on,
That's good.
because it's getting late, so let's move on.
so Patty, do I have to,
Got
like,
hungry.
it's all saved?
Yeah,
I
you
can
can
just-
just exit. You can just exit. It
So
doesn't go anywhere. She's gonna be kicked out and it doesn't go anywhere.
All right, so we move on to action items. Most of them we've already approved, but one was G, the long-term appointment of CSE typist. So I need to make it as a motion, and then we can have discussion. So the proposed action reads, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approve the appointment of Patricia Garrett as long-term typist at 10 hours a week at the rate of $18.50 per hour, off step for the 2017-2018 school year. This appointment is to assist the athletic director. Is there a motion to approve this action?
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dan. All right, and then discussion.
So is this, it seems like it's two parts, because before this position was a kind of stopgap to fill in when we had the athletic director leave, but it's now becoming permanent. And so my question is if it is a civil service position. So, and if we're creating a permanent civil service position, separate from the person who's in it.
So it was a temporary replacement, as was the athletic director.
Mhm.
And so we've continued recommending, or because that's also one of the items that was in the consent agenda, the athletic director, and therefore wanted to continue this too. So yes, this would be a permanent, part-time support staff position, right? Just like the when we created the dishwasher at the middle and high school, same circumstance.
Right, but this is a typist, it's a civil service position
Yes.
with a test.
Same. Yes, that position.
So with that, with creating a permanent, we need to do the steps through the county.
Yeah, we do all that. Right? You want to talk about that process at all?
No.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Okay,
But yes, just as if we were to create a full-time position, full-time permanent position.
So I guess the question is this person, she's taken the test. Is that right?
No.
No.
No, but like, I guess in my mind, if you're, we're doing this for another year, are we actually creating the position? Is it like an Eileen Lycino position where there was a third person in the office?
We are, but we don't have to keep. So in other words, so yeah, I mean, that's what I'm asking for is to create that as a permanent position. But until it's not needed, which it may or may not be needed, depending on how the athletic director position evolves the year after, next year. So the creation of a position doesn't mean it's forever. It could mean that position is no longer needed, and you could reduce it later. But yes, that's right. It's not a long-term substitute position. It's not a temporary position. That's right.
Okay, but I guess the other question is, if it's a civil service appointment, aren't there requirements that have to be met before we appoint somebody to that? And don't they have to show that they have a certain level of expertise in that, for that position?
There's a process, and I didn't come here prepared to go through that process, but it's the same as I'm looking at it as the same as when we appoint any civil service position. So we appoint custodians and we appoint bus drivers, and then we follow that process.
But have we followed that process with this appointment? I guess that's the question. Are we following that process with this appointment?
We're following it as closely as we do with every appointment, which means that we're being consistent. Now, what does exactly that mean? That's a bigger question.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know what the process is, so.
It was my understanding that we'd have to create the position separately from then filling the position. That's the only reason I needed this separate, because I'm not legal.
So do you want us to make this a two-part? Do you think we should make it a two-part? I hear where you're going with that. It's just like we did with the teaching assistant
Right.
positions, right? Where we created the positions first and then we appointed.
Right, it's the steps
Yeah.
involved specifically with the test and that civil service position.
Can we?
Right, because she'll have to, if we do that, then with civil service, we'll have to, like, where we reduced the position when we got rid of the position. And then we would have to increase it with Essex County. And then they would have to apply and take the test, is what would have to happen.
Before they can take the position, or can they take the
No,
position
we
and do
can-
it as part of?
Correct,
Okay, well,
right, yes, but like then they would have to go
that's a
and,
condition of employment.
Correct.
Thing, yeah.
And we've done that.
and then be on the top 3 of the list.
Yeah,
That's pretty consistent with what we've done.
What we've
Yes.
done. So I guess then the other question is, do we have to break it up into two parts? Do we have to approve the position first and then approve the appointment?
Is there a way, I am, the person being looked at, she does a
Sure.
wonderful job.
Yeah.
It is not tied to the
Right.
person, this is specifically tied to the position. And that's what, so I don't want it to
Right.
be that.
Right.
But you said in the past, we have done it this way before, where you create a position and hired the person with
Yeah.
the condition that they.
Well, we
meet the
started
civil
doing
service.
that recently and we did it with the teaching assistant positions at our
Right.
last meeting.
Right.
Where we created them and this is the meeting in which we're actually appointing those teaching
Right,
assistants,
right.
yeah. So
Would
I
it
think
be-
that would be consistent.
Would it be possible to sort through that and then have this come back at a different
Postpone this,
date and
postpone
not
this to the
tonight?
next meeting? Can we do that?
Well, we could,
Could we continue the stopgap, whatever we did, in order to have her do it this year, just for a couple, just to,
we have to change the resolution.
sorry.
Okay, so it's a legal matter, or being consistent, we were talking about doing this, but as a practical matter, is that gonna cause a problem right now? I mean, because we're getting to the end, almost the school year will start it, we're at the end of the summer, is that gonna be a problem? from a personnel
I think
standpoint?
if we were to to change this resolution to upon recommendation of the superintendent, approve the temporary appointment. Okay, I think that would give us a chance to then change that for the next meeting to permanent appointment.
And be able to do the other,
And it wouldn't change anything else.
Okay,
in
just changing
practice.
the wording, okay, that's my concern.
So the motion will read upon the recommendation of superintendent, approve the temporary appointment of Tricia Garrett, the long-term typist, at 10 hours a week at a rate of $18.50 per hour. You okay with that?
Yeah, and then you're
Is
just
there a
gonna explain it,
motion? And you're okay
explain
with
it to
seconding
Yeah,
that?
fine.
what's happening and why, and, yeah, I'm fine with that.
So if there are no other questions, then we'll bring that back in the future. So can you please vote.
Put that on the agenda next time. Agree. And then
You got
appoint.
a comment?
no,
So we're set there. A few more action items. Okay.
do you name them by a letter?
Yes, I will. K. We have, under personnel, K, creation of full-time teaching position. The proposed action reads upon recommendation of superintendent, approve the position of alternative education teacher from part-time to full-time beginning with the 2017-18 school year. Is there a motion to approve this action?
Yes.
Thanks, Ben. Is there a second? Second. Thanks, John. Discussion? Not, let's please vote. And that carries 5-4-0 against. And then the next one is K, is L, is
It's L.
what had creation, oh, yes, okay. I had it as I.
Because it looks like an I. It's an L, isn't it an L?
But doesn't I come after K?
No.
JKL.
It's good, like,
It is.
Poor Mr. Blaine. Disappointed that we don't know the L.
I've had a tough 6 weeks here. Give me a little leeway here. Anyway, the proposed action reads, upon recommendation of the superintendent, create the full-time position of occupational therapist beginning with the 2017-18 school year. This takes the place of the .8 occupational therapy position currently in place. Is there a motion to approve this action?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Joan. Is there a second?
I can second.
Patty? The discussion, questions? Not, let's please vote. Not come there. There we go. And motion carries 5-4-0 against.
why does the Medicaid reimbursement?
So part of the executive content explains that our our therapists have had an added responsibility in the last few years of being far more thorough in completing our Medicaid reimbursement notes, paperwork, et cetera, and part of the reason for this, extension of the 0.8 to the 1.0 is because we've expected the same of our part-time people too, and so this sort of alleviates some of that burden and allows more time, more flexibility in order to both serve kids and to accomplish what we've asked them to do. But as far as why the Medicaid reimbursement there is because the outcome of all that effort has been pretty good. So if you take a look at that chart, what you see is that in 14-15 we're receiving little to no Medicaid reimbursement, and this past year we're up to about $66,000 coming through Medicaid, and that's very much as a result of the hard work that a lot of people are putting in. It's adding to the required time, and we're it's just one of the pieces we thought we could do to extend it.
Thank you.
We move on to other action items. The A, under that fund balance allocation, we've already discussed that. We're going to postpone for later action. The next one, B, is the LAT plan approval. The proposed resolution reads, be it resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the attached 2017-18 local assistance plan. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Stan, is there a second?
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff. Any questions, comments? Not, let's please vote. Motion carries 5-4-0 against. And then we have the setting of the tax levy and signing of the tax warrant. So don't anybody leave without signing. We approve this resolution. So the motion reads to set the tax levy for the Lake Placid Central School District and to approve the signing of the tax warrants for the towns of Lake Placid and Wilmington, New York, in order for the district to begin collection of taxes on September 1st, 2017 through November 1st, 2017, based on information provided to the Board of Education and placed on file with the district clerk. The resolution is attached hereto and made a part hereof. Is there a motion to approve the tax levy? It went down a little bit.
The levy went up,
Yeah.
or, I mean, the actual tax rate went down.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right.
Is there a motion to approve?
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions? Well, let's please vote. Motion carries 5-4-0. That's good. I'm going to start this around so we don't forget.
So Leonard, I don't have to have the two missing people sign, correct?
I don't believe so, because it says
Special
majority.
education, we've already approved, so that brings us to the adjournment phase. So next meeting, we had set August 22nd if needed, we don't need it. Looks like we have hiring done and we've set the tax levy, so that's what we needed to do. So the next meeting will be September 5th, 2017, 6:30, right here. Old agenda items, the one topic we had on here was the busing, we had a report. New agenda topics.
And will that get the old, can we keep it? Or if we're gonna get another one, just keep the busing and there.
New agenda topics.
This may be an agenda topic. I called Karen last week. Karen had asked me if there was one place that you could look for all the available scholarships for available through the school. And I think the answer was not really. Right.
I directed you to the guidance office.
Right.
Because that's something they do.
But is that something we should maybe have published where people could, like, as part of our?
It's a calendar online.
It is on there?
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
calendar. It's presented as a calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the answer that I was.
But it's, but like, so if you go on the calendar, it's year to year and what they put on the calendar. It's not like there's like, these are the scholarships on a separate page.
I think the question is more like, well, all right, what are they, and then what are the criteria that need to be
Right.
met in
Right.
order to apply for them, or should I apply
Right.
for them, kind of thing. And I didn't know.
Right, yeah,
I know the guidance office kind of directs kids to do that, but if a parent asked, they were like, well, how would I know unless my kid told me, and how good they are about doing that.
So I'm actually looking right now. I believe the way it works is, if you were to go to the guidance, the high school on the webpage, school counseling, and I believe that you would then look at college information, scholarship resources.
Okay.
It shows scholarship applications.
Yeah, it shows different things. I'm just wondering whether.
But if they go into the guidance office, if they set up
Yeah,
a
it's all
time to
there.
meet with the counselor, they will show them how to navigate the website.
Yeah.
There's not a one-stop.
Right.
So, for example, I'm just going to show you this. So if you go to thank you, Dan, scholarship applications, and you get to this calendar, and so you have like a calendar of deadlines, and then if you were to click on every one of those scholarships, you would get a
Right.
description of those. There may be different levels of descriptions. There are more detailed descriptions available, through the guidance office than is probably included in here.
Okay.
But this is, probably the best single location. So this is April. You can see every one of those blue lines is a different scholarship.
Yeah.
This is March. I'm going backwards now. So this is March. The FASNY scholarship comes up in mid-March, so it's there, and it has a brief description.
But to
of the
get the
criteria.
full, body of information, they would have to go to the guidance.
That's right.
Yeah. So to get in there, I'm on the website where you went where?
Right. So you would go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would go to school council. So I'm going to have to go backwards now.
So go to departments,
Mhm.
you got high school counseling.
I'm in that link class in Central School District.
Oh, so you
Above
go
the
high
girls'
school.
head, you got
Like class of high
department,
school first.
Okay.
high school counseling.
Yeah,
thank you, Lana.
All right,
okay. That's
Okay.
fine. I can get it from there. Thank you.
okay. All right, so, is there a motion to adjourn? Yes. Okay. Is there a second? Thanks, Dan. I'm assuming everybody's in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. You gonna vote for us, Karen? All right, we are adjourned. 8:52. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
Good night.
It's a good thing, huh? Good night, Rick.
I think we should
Probably is.
or I don't know.
Is that all ready to go then?
More like you.
Last
Get
page
that.
is upside down there, so.
Yeah, we'll get that to E-Town tomorrow. Start on
You're
that.
not alone.
Oh my God, I'm trying.
It can be complicated. And,
We're using it at the state association too.